Morning, everyone. As Dr. Nelson mentioned, I'm at the National Center for Alluvial Aquifer Research, located at the Delta Research and Extension Center in Mississippi, Stoneville, Mississippi. So today I'm very happy to share with you the result from one of the irrigation studies, sprinkler irrigation study that we have conducted here in the Mississippi Delta. So the title for this presentation is Exploring the Effect of Sprinkler Irrigation on Corn that's grown on two different soil types at different nitrogen rates and irrigation thresholds. Okay. The problem that we are trying to solve at the center is how to advise farmers on how to do better water management practices. And since you might know that the groundwater level from the Mississippi River Valley alluvial aquifer are declining, and this is due to the overuse and excessive pumping rates for agriculture and fisheries use. The most common irrigation method to provide water to row crops here in the Delta is by furrow irrigation. Therefore, a lot of research has been conducted to increase the irrigation water use efficiency in furrow systems. Example of these tools or techniques that researchers have developed and evaluated here in the Delta are computerized hole selection software, surge irrigation, furrow diking, tailwater recovery system, and alternate furrow irrigation. But there is another tool, or I should say another irrigation method that can be used to reduce the amount of water that's being pumped from the Mississippi River Valley alluvial aquifer. And this is the sprinkler irrigation. Sprinkler irrigation is not new in Mississippi. However, there hasn't been a lot of research to evaluate the water conservation benefits of this system. So we designed an experiment with the objective to evaluate the effects of different irrigation threshold and nitrogen rates in two different soil types based on soil electrical conductivity on corn, of course, on the sprinkler irrigation system. We hypothesized that irrigation threshold should be based on soil texture or soil types. And one of the hypotheses is that a negative 70 kilopascal irrigation threshold would be ideal to irrigate corn that is grown on high electrical conductivity soil. On the other hand, a negative 40 kPa threshold would be best for soils that have low electrical conductivity. So the experiment was designed as a split plot. As a main plot, we have two different soil types. Basically, we divide the field in two soil classes or ranges, low and high electrical conductivity. The low electrical conductivity goes from 30 to 70 millisiemens per meter, and the high electrical conductivity range goes from 70 to 125. As a split plot, we have the irrigation threshold. We selected four, negative 40, negative 70, and negative 100 kPa threshold. And we also include a rainfed control. For those that are not familiar with irrigation threshold based on soil water tension, which are the numbers that you're looking at the screen, negative 40, negative 70, and negative 100, these numbers represent or are telling us how tightly the water is held into the soil particle. So, as an example, we use this number. A negative 100 kPa threshold means that the soil moisture in that soil with a negative 100 is less compared to negative 40. Now, as a split plot, we have the nitrogen rate. We selected 0, 112, 224, and 336 kilograms per hectare. For those that prefer imperial units, the rates are 0, 100, 200, and 300 pounds per acre. So with this slide, what I want to show you is the soil electrical conductivity map. This map was generated using various technologies machine. The model was 3150, and the SWAT width that we used to collect the readings from the field was about 8 meters. Once we collected these readings, we uploaded into ArcGIS Pro, and using gradient interpolation method, we generate the map. In the map, the black areas represent the low electrical conductivity zones, and the white areas represent the high electrical conductivity zones. And I also have included a small reference in the slide where you can have an idea of the different soil texture that we were working in the field, or what is actually the meaning of each range. Like a high range of EC means that the soil has more clay content compared to a low range. It has more sand content. This is an aerial picture of field 6 here at the station, and I want to show you here the irrigation or the sprinkle irrigation system that we are using. So as you can see here, this is the sprinkle irrigation. This is a lateral move or linear. This is made by valley. Also, you can see the plots. The plots are a row plot. And the light green color that you see are the plots that receive the lower nitrogen rate, or they did not receive nitrogen at all. So the data that I'm presenting today are 3 variables: the relative chlorophyll content. These measurements were taken with the SPAD meter readings. SPAD stands for Soil Plan and Analysis Development. This is a handheld device that you clip into the corn leaf, and will give you a value. These values are unitless, but give you an estimation on how green or how much chlorophyll the corn leaf has, and which is correlated with the amount of not amount, but how much nitrogen is present in the soil. And we also collected grain yield and grain nitrogen uptake. All this data was analyzed with SAS using the probe limits procedure. Okay, let's start with the SPAD readings. And SPAD readings were collected 2 weeks after the nitrogen was applied as a single shot. And with these 2 graphs, I want to show you the two-way interaction of nitrogen rate and irrigation threshold across time. Both graphs were set up the same way, where the SPAD readings are in the y-axis, and in the x-axis, I have the date after planting. Also, if you notice that I have in red letters in both graphs, the corn growth stages that you can see during the growing season. So let's talk about the first graph, which will be the graph to the right side of you. And as you can see in this graph, the different lines represent the nitrogen rates. And as we increase the nitrogen rates, the SPAD readings increase, which is expected because that's how the nitrogen rate can be applied. When the nitrogen applied to the soil, we expect that it's translocated to the corn leaf and make the leaf greener. But interestingly here, the 2 higher nitrogen rates, which were 224 and 336 kilograms per hectare, they follow the same trend line. You see, it's almost the same. And this is because, corn leaf, they have a saturation point that will not get greener with more nitrogen that we apply. And another point to note here is that as we increase the nitrogen rate, the corn leaf stay greener for longer time, as you can see here. So it affects corn maturity. On the other hand, for the irrigation threshold, which is an indirect measure of how much water is in the soil, we have here that the different irrigation threshold represented by each line. And interestingly here, the statistical difference started spreading out after, let's say, R3. And you see how they are becoming apart, especially the rainfall control. So it means that the corn maturity is getting delayed. Oh, sorry, in this case, it's getting faster. We are reaching corn maturity faster compared to a negative 40 irrigation threshold, which means that leaf will stay green longer. So in summary, these 2 graphs are just telling us that corn maturity is affected by nitrogen and soil water content. As we increase nitrogen, we extend the greenness of the leaf, or we increase water. So now, let's talk about grain yield data. And this is a 3-way interaction graph. And I'm showing is let me see if we can. As I said, it's a 3-way interaction graph, and the graph is divided in 2 panels, one for each soil type, and one is for low and high electrical conductivity. In the y-axis are the grain yield expressed in kilograms per hectare, and as you can see, they both have the same scale and they are aligned so that we can compare between the 2 soil textures. And the lines represent the nitrogen rates. The first thing that you can notice looking at the graph is that the corn that was grown on soil with low electrical conductivity yielded more compared to the soil that was grown in high electrical conductivity soil. So just a reminder, the high electrical conductivity soil is the one that has high clay content. So we have difference in yield. But interestingly, you take a look at the panel with the low electrical conductivity, you will see that the gray yield peaks at the negative 40 kVA threshold, and is the same, I'm gonna say similar with the two higher nitrogen rates, the 224 and the 336. On the other hand, for the corn that was grown in high electrical conductivity, this peak occurred at negative 17, but at the 224 kilograms per hectare of the nitrogen that was applied. So the previous graph that I showed you was just to show you the overall trend. As you see, I didn't show any letters for statistical differences. So what I did in this graph, what I'm showing you is I just took a subset of the data that I showed you before. I subtracted the 224 and 326 kilograms per hectare. Why I did this? Because usually farmers, that's the range of the nitrogen they apply. They apply between 200 and 300 pounds per acre. So, and since we were interested to give them advice on how to manage irrigation, that's how I did this analysis and I ran the stats. So again, the graph is divided in two panels, and you can see the differences in yield. But interestingly here, in both soil texture, the negative 40 and the negative 70 are statistically the same. However, for the low electrical conductivity soil, we see that numerically the yield is higher, as well for the high clay soil type. Now, let's take a look at the grain nitrogen uptake data. And the purpose of these two graphs is to show you how the irrigation threshold of the soil water content affect grain nitrogen uptake, as well the soil electrical conductivity and nitrogen rate, by nitrogen rate. So as you can see, as water is available in the soil, we have a higher grain nitrogen uptake. And in terms of soil types, you notice that nitrogen is being more translocated or passed to the grain in the soil texture with low electrical conductivity. And this is due to the soil properties. So in summary, with this result, what indicate is that irrigation threshold should be based on the soil type. And these are the results from 2022. Basically, last year we have a hot and dry weather. And these are, during that year, my results indicate that for soil with high clay content, a drier irrigation threshold should be better, like negative 70. And for a low electrical conductivity, the soil type will be negative 40. In terms of nitrogen rates, I cannot say which one is the best nitrogen that we apply, but we see in the data that they are similar in both. So to determine which nitrogen should be the best or should be the best to be applied for on the irrigation, sprinkler irrigation system, we were waiting for the third year of data, and maybe we might calculate the agronomic optimum nitrogen rate. But more important, these results are supporting that there is a need to develop irrigation threshold based on soil texture. And why? The reason is because this will assist variable rate irrigation system. I haven't mentioned what this means, but variable rate irrigation system are equipment that is put into a center pivot or lateral. And what they do, they can control the amount of water that's being applied in one field. So farmer will have the opportunity to regulate how much water will be applied in different part of the field. That way we can optimize the use of water. So the next step that we are trying to do is, during the past 2 years, we collected aerial images, and the purpose is to analyze them and develop or calculate vegetative indices from this data to estimate or to predict biomass and grain yield. And well, with that is, I would like to say thank you to my committee members, the funding sources, and all the people that has been involved in this project. Special thanks to Jim Nichols, Live Pringle for their support in the field. But a special thanks to the lab members that helped me in the field collecting all these data. And these lab members are Amrinder, Trace, Hayden, Dylan, Trey, and Kaiser. With that, I will be happy to take any question you have. Yes, Dr. Quintana?
Thank you, Milka. These slides are great, great use of audiovisual. You're a great presenter. That's great. I'd like to make start with a comment. There's no such a thing as statistically insane. When you run your statistics, usually what you try to do is reject null hypothesis. So if you can go back to your, which I like that you have the hypothesis there, which that can guide both your research and your statistical analysis. Can you tell me what your null hypothesis would be for each of those cases?
The null hypothesis will be that there will not be a statistical differences between irrigation thresholds, so you will not see any yield differences. It doesn't matter if you will use a negative 40, negative 70, or negative 100 kPa.
And so you were able to statistically reject those hypotheses in both cases?
So, as you can see here, this is the graph that you're talking about. Thank you for the compliment. So yeah, and in this case, so you see that the negative 40 and the negative 70 are not statistically the same. That's what the question is, but numerically are different.
So you failed to reject the null hypothesis?
If I fail to reject, yes, because they are negative 40 and negative 70 for low electrical conductivity soil type, it was the same. But that's what I say when I was talking about this graph. Yes, we are looking here at irrigation threshold, but what I have learned is like there is not like a specific kind of cutoff number when we are irrigating, and especially when you have different soil variability. As I mentioned, I have a range between 13 to 17 millisiemens per meter in my field. So that is the reason that we are seeing I cannot I failed to reject the hypothesis. So because the range is what I consider kind of big.
The statistics doesn't pick up the difference.
Yeah,
Right.
it doesn't big, but what is important is like if you so as you see here, like for a clay soil, the negative 70, okay, irrigating a negative 70 will mean that we are applying less water to the soil compared to a negative 40. So that will be a guidance or a bias that we can do the dry irrigation threshold are better for soil that have high electrical conductivity, in the case of clay. And why is the reason? Because of the previous year, which kind of was a wet year, and we irrigated really 2 or 3 times, and actually applying water at a negative 40, the clay soil, we were seeing a decline in yield. So that's what I'm basing. This is just 2022 data.
Right, but for the hypothesis and your research, you failed to reject the null in both cases.
Yeah, because basically there is between the irrigation threshold I was looking.
So I think if your conclusion is you still make you need to add more meat to that argument. I mean, there's other, your impression, something like that, because your statistics just don't support the conclusion. But I like that hypothesis, and I would say, I would add, all of you, probably good to have that statistically, this is the null hypothesis that we're going to test. So it's easier to connect the two.
Thank you. Yes, Dr. Napoli?
Yeah, this use of electrical conductivity in irrigation scheduling, and that has been criticized for long. Because electrical conductivity is something can be dynamic because it depends on many other factors other than simply texture. Because plant is only when you add fertilizer, it changes, and if you have irrigation, the leaves are there's what are the factors. So are you depending on one measurement of EC at the beginning of the season? Or
Okay.
Or is it you are changing through the season? The
Okay.
map?
Thank you for the question. So the question was if I am depending my study in just one measure of the electrical conductivity in the field. So that's
Yeah,
correct.
the-
Okay.
before the season starts.
Yeah, so we collected the EC readings once in 2021. The measurements were taken during the spring. So we waited for a long time that we didn't have rain that could affect the readings. And you are right, EC reading can be affected for different factors, salinity, soil type, and the time of the year that you do it because it changed. So our aim was when we collected this data, it was like the field, I would say, I didn't measure what's a field capacity to give you, but I know when I drove the tractor, that tractor was not creating rods in the soil, was not too wet and not too dry. Because you're right, EC values changes during the season.
So with that, did you try to get physical analysis, textile analysis and try to match this? Why the ECU? Whether it conform to the, textile physical analysis,
Okay,
like 70 or loamy and different soil types.
so the question was if I cross-check my EC values with a specific type of analysis. So no, exactly. Indirectly, what I did is I pull up the soil survey data. And what I did is just put the two maps and see my layers. I have 2 layers of EC values that is called low EC and deep EC. The low EC goes from just 1 foot and the deep EC goes from 1 to 3. So what I did it was kind of match up those layers and see if those soil types were kind of similar and they were accurate, the 2 layers. That's how I cross-check indirectly those soil textures, and you will be able to see the difference. Of course, there are some areas, especially the one where the soil type is transitioning, that will not match perfectly, but you can see that.
Very good.
Any other questions?
Thank you.